Their presentations.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Okay. I know there were some traffic issues, but I also want to be very respectful of your time for the folks that are here this evening. So if we get some additional folks coming in, hopefully they can just come on in. My name is Linda Bridwell. I'm the Executive Director of the Public Service Commission. We are here tonight for a public comment meeting on the two cases that have been filed, the general rate applications for Kentucky Utilities and LG&E, Louisville Gas and Electric. This is a series of 4 public comment meetings that we are hosting prior to the evidentiary hearing. I'm going to go through a little bit of the process tonight, both of the agenda tonight and the process of the case. The utility is not making a presentation tonight, so this is an opportunity for you to speak, to make your comments be heard. The commissioners are here tonight to listen. They will not be answering any questions as part of this presentation. So let me go briefly through our agenda. So our agenda tonight is I will make a presentation on a very high level of the case, what's being asked for in the case, and how the process works. This is a legal proceeding, and so that's why we don't have the utility come and make a presentation on the case itself. As the staff members, we're not making a presentation on the case. What we're doing tonight is going to give you a very high level, and it's your opportunity to ask questions about it. Then after that's finished, then again, we will open it up for public comment. The commissioners will invite the public comments. Let me emphasize again, the commissioners cannot provide any responses or answers to questions you may have. The public comments are documented in writing, as well as we are recording this. It all becomes part of the case record. Now, you may be sitting there if this is your first time to come to one of these and go, well, what's the point if I can't ask questions? If you have a question about something that may be going on, it may be something that the commissioners also have a question about, or that they haven't heard from and they would like to know about. So during the evidentiary hearing or during the proceeding of the case, they may ask about the issues you raise. So I don't want you to feel like, well, if I can't get my questions answered tonight, then it's not worth me asking them. No, it is very valuable. The commissioners do listen to the public comments. It is very helpful for them to know what's on the mind of the folks who are the ratepayers. So with that, I'm going to give you a brief background about the Public Service Commission. Again, the commission was created in 1934. It is a 3-member administrative body that has been appointed by the governor with quasi-judicial duties. This really is a legal proceeding, much like a legal trial going on in front of a judge. The commission regulates more than 1,100 utilities across the state: electric, gas, water, some telephone, some sewer, but they regulate the private and not a lot of the nonprofit utilities. The commission is funded by an assessment that is paid for by the utilities. It doesn't come out of the general fund of the legislature. It's an assessment paid by the utilities. And the purpose, the authority that is given to the commission from the legislature is to ensure that every utility shall furnish adequate, efficient, and reasonable service at fair, just, and reasonable rates. So I want to emphasize that again: adequate, efficient, and reasonable service at fair, just, and reasonable rates. So again, I want to emphasize the commission's role in this is to serve primarily as a judge, to hear the parties on both sides. So we'll get into this a little bit more during the rate making process. But the utilities in Kentucky are not competitive businesses, and so the legislature, as part of that, has recognized that it's too expensive to have competing utilities that just because of the cost of the infrastructure. So they're in monopolies, but again, we want their rates and service regulated by the Public Service Commission. So the Public Service Commission is looking at, is it fair, is it just, is it reasonable, is it providing financial stability to the utility, and is it fair to the customers? Again, they're regulated to protect against the risk of poor service or a monopoly profits in excess of what is appropriate. So that's what we're looking at as part of the commission. Changing rates in the state of Kentucky is a legal process. I want to make sure that you understand, and we say this over and over again, the only rates that regulated utilities can charge are what have been approved by the Public Service Commission. So to change it, it's governed under a series of statutes and regulations by the legislature. The process includes the utility files an application. It has all sorts of financial data in there. It has written testimony from different members of the utility or their expert witnesses. The rates are then suspended for 6 months. So under this, when the utility first files the application, they put it in, they say, we're going to put these rates into effect in 30 days. That's just the process that the legislature has set out. The commission then says, no, we want to review these rates for fair, just, and reasonableness. We're going to suspend your rates for 6 months. So during that, parties may intervene, other parties in addition to the Attorney General's office. Then we will have an evidentiary hearing, cross-examine all of the witnesses, ask questions, and then there is a final order that decides the matter on all of the different issues in the case. So the public comments, again, we want to hear from the customers, from the public. The public comments can be filed at any time. They become part of the case record, and we'll talk a little bit more about there's 3 or 4 ways to do the public comments. So, but they are included as part of the public record in the case. So I've mentioned this a couple times already, but the rate application, when the rate application comes in, how much is the utility asking for it? So the rates must enable the utility to provide adequate service, first and foremost. So if we get complaints that they're not providing adequate service, then we're looking at why aren't you providing adequate service? We've given you the money for rates, or authorized that. Why isn't that being done? That's part of it. They also must maintain financial integrity of the utility. So as just as a bottom standard of business, an underlying factor of all of this is that the utility must maintain financial integrity as well as providing the adequate service. The utility, if it's an investor-owned utility, must be able to attract investors, including favorable terms on the loans. So if the utility is looking to borrow money or to have investors, what is it that's going to provide enough financial integrity to keep it and attracting investors in favorable loan terms? I want to emphasize this point. The U.S. Supreme Court has held that rates that do not allow this are unconstitutional. It's considered a taking. So really, the decision in front of the commission is balancing what's fair, just, and reasonable while providing the appropriate level of service to the customers. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about this case specifically, but again, at a very, very high level. So first, and I have these flipped here, 2025 114 is the Louisville Gas and Electric case, 113 is the Kentucky Utilities case. Although they're both owned by the same parent company, they operate as 2 separate utilities, but much of the management and the decisions and the policies that are included in the case are similar, so the cases are basically handled in parallel while we're going through it. So just a brief background on Louisville Gas and Electric. They generate and purchase electricity, distribute and sell electricity in Jefferson County and portions of 8 counties. They purchase, store, transport, distribute, and sell natural gas in Jefferson County and portions of 16 counties. According to their 2024 annual report, 335,000 gas customers and 438,000 electric customers. Their last rate increase in base rates was in 2021. In this case, the proposed increase in electric rates will result in $104.9 million additional revenues, or 8.3%. And again, this is what has been proposed in the application. That doesn't mean at the end of the day, when all of this has been reviewed, that that's automatically accepted, but I want to make sure everybody understands that's the proposed application. The proposed increase in gas rates will result in a $59.5 million additional revenues, or 14.0%. Now that's the total revenues of the company. The proposed average monthly residential electric bill will increase $11.04 or 10.1% for a customer using 866 kilowatt hours. So the proposed average monthly residential gas bill will increase $11.12 or 14.9% for customer using 5,200 cubic feet of gas per month. According to the application, the purpose behind it is primarily driven by investment in infrastructure. And then I also want to add, they have filed an additional cost of service study, which, so when you're looking at the overall revenue and the residential customers increase, sometimes they don't always match up, sometimes they're less than or greater than, depending on what the cost of service is showing. Kentucky Utilities generates, distributes, and sells electricity in 77 counties in central, northern, southwestern, and western Kentucky. They have a total, according to their 2024 annual report, 547,000 customers. Again, their last rate increase in base rates was in 2021. The proposed increase for Kentucky Utilities in their application is in electric rates will result in $226.1 million of additional revenues, or 11.5%. The average monthly residential electric bill will increase 18.15 cents or 13.6% for a customer using 1,085 kilowatt hours. Now, you may be sitting there and saying, wait a second, Linda, you said 866 kilowatt hours on the LG&E. That's because, again, as I said, they're two distinct companies, and each one has a different average customer usage. So when we ask them, when we tell them you have to provide what the average residential bill will change, it's based on the average customer usage. So in this case, Kentucky Utilities' average residential customer uses a little bit more than the LG&E average residential customer. So according to the application, again, it is primarily driven by investment in infrastructure. In addition to the rate increase, there are a couple items that I just want to mention as part of this that you may be interested in. LG&E and KU have asked for a new tariff for what's called extremely high load factor, or an HLF tariff. It would require a 15-year contract. This is for a specialized customer that has a high load, larger demands with very high load factors, meaning that they're a very consistent customer, but with a high load demand. It is anticipated that this would primarily be for data centers that might come in, but it would be a tariff specifically for them and the way that it will be addressed. They're also proposing to revise the net metering service tariff for customers who provide net metering at their house. Just to give you an idea of the 2025, the 113 Kentucky utility rate case, the intervening parties, as I mentioned early on, this is a legal process. So the utility brings in their application, the commission serves as basically the judge, other parties may intervene. So the Attorney General's office, the Office of the Attorney General, is by statute the representative, the advocate for customers in the state of Kentucky. So they're allowed by statute to intervene in any case that they want to. So the Attorney General has intervened. They represent, again, the customers of Kentucky Utilities. We have the Sierra Club, the Kentucky SEIA, Walmart, Kentucky Industrial Utility Customers, Lexington Fayette Urban County Government, the Kentucky Broadband and Cable Association, the Kroger's Company, or I'm sorry, I always say it with an S, Kroger Companies, the Department of Defense, and the federal executive agencies filed jointly as an intervener. And then there is a group, a coalition called Joint Interveners of Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, Kentucky Solar Energy Society, and the Metropolitan Housing Coalition. So in 2025, 114, the LG&E rate case, the intervening parties, if it looks almost identical to you, that's because it primarily is. They swap out the Lexington Fayette Urban County Government for the Louisville Metro Government, and the Metropolitan Housing Coalition to LG&E specifically, but the other interveners are the same in both cases. So the next steps in the case. So we will have a hearing. So first of all, we have 4 public meetings, as I mentioned. These are public comment meetings. But again, this is so that people can comment on the case, maybe learn a little bit about what's going on, or learn how they can find more information. Tonight here in Jefferson County is on September 8th. Then we have one on October 13th, 14th, and 16th. Those, and I'm not sure of which ones are which, but they are in, let's see, Harlan and Madisonville, Kentucky, and Lexington. So we're trying to get across the state so that people can come out and make their voices be heard. The hearing in Frankfort will begin on Monday, November 3rd, 2025 at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and will continue for several days. Public comments will be accepted at the start of the hearing on November 3rd in addition to this, so to tonight. Now, what I want to make sure that I emphasize is all the ways that you can make public comments. So if you came tonight and you were expecting to hear a presentation from the utility, and you're saying, wait a second, I don't know enough that I feel comfortable standing up, you can just stand up and say that, or you can wait. You can provide your comments at the start of the hearing on November 3rd. Or if you said, well, this is the most convenient for me, then you can send us your public comments. You can send it by email, and I'll have that email address. You can go to a link on our website and send that. There is also an opportunity if you just want to mail it in. We will file it. All of it goes into the case record and at any time. And you can file multiple comments. So if you stand up tonight and you say something, and then you get in the car and you're on the way home and say, man, I forgot to mention this, and I really wanted to say this. Feel free to make sure that you send those public comments in. Or you get home and you're talking to your neighbor and you said, well, this is what I did tonight. And they said, well, I wish I had known, I would have gone. You can still make public comments. So the hearing is open to the public. Our offices are at 211 Sauer Boulevard. The public is available to sit through the hearing at all times. We also broadcast that hearing. There's a YouTube link on our website the entire time it's going on. It's a live broadcast, goes straight through. Now the recording tonight is, we're not broadcasting it live. We're taping it. It's just a technology issue for us. It'll be up on our website in about 24 hours. So it just takes a little bit longer. One of the things I want to make sure, if you're noticing on here and you've been to a public meeting before, during COVID, we offered the opportunity at the beginning of the hearing to provide virtual comments if you didn't want to come to Frankfort. You could still get on essentially a Zoom call and make public comments. The technology on that has been really challenging once we've gone back to live hearings in the office, trying to combine the two. So at this time, moving forward, this case will not have that virtual option at the beginning of the hearing. That doesn't mean that you can't still make comments. You can come to Frankfort, you can watch it, you can do all of the email and everything that you want to do. We just are not offering that option at this time for this hearing. Just to let you know, the final order in this case must be entered by statute by March 30th, 2026. So if you do want to make public comments later than tonight, just keep in mind that the legislature has said by statute we have to make a decision no later than March 30th, 2026. So with that, if you have questions about the process or how you find out the case record or how you find out more information about what is in this case, I'm happy to answer those questions tonight. I want to emphasize again, if you start asking me questions about, well, what about this or what about that in the case, I am not able to answer those tonight, and I'll try and be as polite as possible, but I'm not going to be able to answer questions about the details of the case. Once the public comment period starts, we won't go back and try and ask questions. The commission takes over at that point, and they will be listening. And again, it's not a presentation tonight on behalf of the utility. This is an opportunity for you as members of the public to let your voices be heard in person. So anything about what I've said about the process of the case that anybody has a question about? If not, I'm sure you all are ready to get into the public comment period. So What I'm going to do here, again, so just so you know, there are 2 ways to enter electronic public comments. You can send them to our psc.comment@ky.gov. That's our email address. Someone monitors that. You can send those comments in. Make sure you reference the case number and you have your email address in there, and then we will post it as a public comment. There's a second way that there's actually just a web form that if you go to our website and hit the Contact Us tab, there is a heading that says to submit a comment or ask about a case. You click on that and it'll just have a web form that you can type in the case number and it will automatically upload yours immediately into the public record of the case. Finally, like I said, you can mail your comments at any time. We accept them. We will file them at any time during the case, and it just takes us a few more days to get that scanned in and uploaded, but it's all part of the case record so that anybody can see what has been said about the public comments on the case. So I'm going to leave this information up here in case anybody has any questions about that. And with that, I think, Chair, it's time to turn it over to public comments. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Angie Hatton. I'm chair of the Kentucky Public Service Commission. Joining me tonight is Commissioner Andrew Wood. Commissioner Regan couldn't be here with us, but this recording, as Linda just told you, this meeting, as Linda just told you, will be recorded, and we will have that on our website for others to view, and Commissioner Regan can view it as well. So to reiterate the point just made, we're here to receive comments. We don't prejudge cases before we've heard them, so we're not going to provide answers tonight. This is not something we're required to do, it's something we want to do. So we'll be traveling to East Kentucky, West Kentucky, Louisville, and Lexington to make sure that if you have an opinion that you would like us to hear or a comment about this case, that you get that opportunity as ratepayers and other interested parties as well. We understand that in any proceedings, sometimes tensions are high and emotions are involved. I'll just ask that everyone be respectful when someone else is speaking, not to talk over them or just be polite with one another, and then that way everyone will get an opportunity to speak. And as Linda told you, even though we won't answer your questions tonight, if you've watched any of our public hearings, we often ask the utilities questions that we were asked in public comment hearings. So if you ask us something, it may trigger a question in our minds, and we'll reiterate that question to the utility. Also, your comments are made part of the record, so it's as if you've testified. It becomes part of the evidence in the record. So there is plenty of reason to come and do this, even if you don't get questions answered. So given the number of participants that have signed up tonight, I'm going to leave it to our standard 7 minutes each. Sometimes I'll shorten it if we get a lot of people here, just to make sure that everyone gets a chance and that someone doesn't talk for 2 hours and other people don't get an opportunity. So 7 minutes each, and you'll approach the microphone right over here, state your name and your address, and then I'll start the timer for your 7 minutes. If I'm looking at my phone, that's what I'm doing, just timing. We also take notes, so if we're not looking at you and we're writing, it's because sometimes we're taking notes about things you're saying. As always, written comments may still be made to the Commission at any time for our consideration in this case. Please include your name, address, and reference case number 2025-00113 for KU's rate case and 2025-00114 for LG&E's rate case, or both. You may also mail your comments to PSC at P.O. Box 615, 211 Sauer Boulevard, Frankfort, Kentucky 40602-0615. Or you may email your comments to psc.comment@ky.gov. We try to give you plenty of opportunity. All of the information about the case, including all of the case filings, anything that hasn't been deemed confidential, will be available on our website, which is psc.ky.gov, and you can find that under the Contact Us tab. Okay, so I'm going to go through the list that's been provided as people signed up front, and I'm going to go first for the people that indicated yes. After I've gone through the people that indicated yes, they wanted to speak tonight, I'll give everyone else an opportunity if anyone's changed their mind and would like to speak after they hear others. So let me get my phone to time us, and then we'll get started. The first person on the list that I believe has indicated they want to speak is Sam Avery.
Good evening. Are we hot here? Okay. My name is Sam Avery, Louisville, Kentucky. How's that?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm with the Renewable Energy Alliance of Louisville. I didn't mean to be the leadoff hitter here today, but I'll try to get on base. This moment that we're looking at here tonight is something I've been waiting for. When Louisville Gas and Electric asked for a rate increase to include storm damage, that means that they're recognizing that something is happening in the world. And that is that fossil fuel equals violent weather. Now, that's an oversimplification, and I should explain that a little bit. I'm not going to go into details here, but I will say that Louisville Gas and Electric is not responsible for all the fires in California and in Spain and southern France and everywhere else, Australia. It's not responsible for the floods in Texas and eastern Kentucky and in North Carolina. It's not responsible for all the new, more intense hurricanes and tornadoes and heat waves that we're having. But it is complicit. It is doing its part by continuing to consume fossil fuel and dumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. That changes how the atmosphere works, and it results in violent weather that would be more intense violent weather than we've experienced before. The Earth now contains 51% more carbon dioxide in its atmosphere than it did before we started burning fossil fuel. And that's why we're seeing the violent weather. Fossil fuel equals violent weather. And when it comes time to ask for a rate increase that will cover damage from violent weather, even if it's just to cover the profit involved in retrieving infrastructure after violent weather hits, and they're asking us to pay for it, that makes us, in a way of thinking, that makes us complicit in fossil fuel consumption. Now, if I were standing right in front of LG&E, and I'm Louisville, this is what I would say, more or less. I would say, thank you. Thank you for the warmth you provided in the winter. Thank you for the light you provide at night. We appreciate all these things, but it's not working for us now. That was then, this is now. And we are unsatisfied with the service that Louisville Gas and Electric is providing for us, because it no longer fits our needs for renewable energy. And the reason for that is that LG&E is abusing its monopoly. Now, as was stated earlier by our executive director here, the monopoly is necessary for distribution of energy, of electricity. It is not necessary for generation of electricity. We need it for distribution because we don't want 5 or 6 different sets of wires going down the street and going into each building in the town. We don't want that. So the distribution monopoly is natural. And we have you people, the Public Service Commission, committed to serving the public, keeping us from the abuse of overprices for electricity. And that works pretty well, not real well, but pretty well, for regulating the prices of fossil fuel energy. But it's not working for regulating the prices of renewable energy, such as solar. Now, I know what the price of utility-scale solar is on average in this country. I'm a retired solar installer. I'm also working with the city of Louisville, with several members of Metro Council and professionals in the Office of Sustainability. We are looking into why it is that LG&E offers renewable energy programs, but nobody accepts them, or very few. Now, there's some programs that, there are about 4 or 5 programs that they offer. But every one of them doubles or triples the price of renewable energy and makes it uncompetitive with fossil fuel energy. LG&E looks at solar as being its competition. And because it has a monopoly, it's able to control the price of its competition. And it makes it so the city of Louisville cannot even apply for a renewable energy green tariff. Why? Because LG&E is sitting there dictating terms, and one of those terms is that the city of Louisville is too small a customer to have renewable energy.
1 minute left.
And I want to see the city of Louisville able to negotiate with LG&E, not just be dictated to. And I hope that the Public Service Commission, committed to serve the public, is able to look into the terms of the renewable energy contracts that LG&E is offering and see if they are reasonable and just. I want to work with LG&E, but I want them to negotiate with their customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next on the list is George Perkins.
Thank you. Is this good on the mic? I'm George Perkins. Address is 3411 Goose Creek Road. The biggest impact of changes in the current rate case are the increase in rates, approximately 10 to 15% across the board. I'm protesting that increase because given the justifications submitted by LG&E, such as the capitalization of some operating expenses, it seems to me that the increase is intended more to benefit the stockholders than to improve service for the ratepayers. But there will be others addressing those issues in more detail and expertise than I have, other commenters and the interveners in the case. My purpose here is rather specific. I would like to challenge the winter peak rates in the time of day rate class. For the benefit of those who might not be familiar with this, the time of day pricing involves, for the winter from November to March, 2 4-hour periods each weekday, during which the cost of electricity is approximately 2 times what it is during the other 16 hours of the day. There's a similar situation in the summer with only 1 4-hour period per day. and the off-peak rate is approximately 20% less than the fixed rate, which probably the majority of residential customers use. The purpose of having peak rates like that is twofold. It's an incentive for consumers to limit consumption, and it saves LG&E from having to buy more expensive electricity or add additional generating capacity to meet the peak demand. The justification of choice of peak times was requested on July 31st in submissions to the rate case by the joint interveners. And they said they asked LG&E to explain how peak hours were determined and provide supporting documentation. On August 12th, the response from LG&E was embarrassingly dismissive. 2 words: operational reality. No data either referred to or submitted. I have taken the trouble to analyze LG&E's load pattern for the years of 2022 to 2023 using their own hourly load data that was submitted to the rate case. I found that the morning, in actuality, the morning 4-hour peak load occurs 2 hours later, and the evening peak time is 1 hour earlier than the time specified in LG&E's tariff. My reason for the challenge, or standing if you will, is that the existing peak times adversely affect my credits and charges as a net metering and time of day ratepayer. I'm requesting of the Commission that the correction be required as part of this rate case, or alternatively, that LG&E be required to justify the existing peak times by submitting detailed documentation. I've previously submitted my analysis in a written comment to PSC, but I chose to emphasize it and perhaps be redundant in person here at this hearing. I've also submitted it to LG&E, but have not received any acknowledgement or any response in approximately a week since I sent it to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Next is Gary Watrous. Correct me if I've pronounced that incorrectly, please.
My name is Gary Watrous. Is this loud enough? Can anybody hear me? Okay. I live in western Louisville. I'm a member of the REAL group, the Renewable Energy Alliance of Louisville. Being a member of a low-income community of western Louisville, I'm extremely concerned about how the rate increases will impact my community and many of the low-income people across Kentucky. As you know, a small increase in charges from LG&E or KU is nothing for a wealthy person, but for a low-income person, it's a considerable impact to their total budget. It could be especially if they're spending a lot already on rent and so forth. So I would like the Commission to consider that and to do an analysis of how the rates increases requested impact low-income people. And secondly, I think it's important that they publish that information. Another issue is that I don't believe the public is sufficiently aware of the impact that the proposed data centers and providing power to these data centers will have on their potential rate increases. And so I would like the Commission to consider delaying this decision for at least 6 months so that greater publicity can be provided to the general public and more input. I mean, you can see the paltry turnout that you got here from basically one interest group. Why isn't this auditorium filled with people? Ask yourself that question, and it's because nobody knows about it, and nobody knows about these rate increases, and the publicity is terrible. So I encourage you to provide and think about how to publicize these decisions to a larger public. Thank you.
The next on the list is Virginia Bush.
Okay.
Someone help her.
All right. So my name is Virginia Bush, and
Everyone here okay? If not, we can get
No.
the microphone adjusted.
what, I've got it down here. Maybe I need to get closer.
I'm also vertically challenged.
Okay.
I know how it feels.
So I live in Germantown in Louisville, and but I work as a nurse with a lot of low-income people. A lot of them require electricity for oxygen, just for daily life to live. And this seems to many people like it might not be a big increase, but I think that we just had an increase in August, and now they're requesting another increase. So when you keep in mind what this means to the average person or the low-income person, it's like we're having increases after increase after increase. Whether they divide it into the part that's, the base rate part, or whether they divide it into the usage part, really doesn't matter to the person that's using. It's what they need. So in that vein, I belong to a church that has a St. Vincent de Paul chapter, and we get inundated with requests for assistance with utility bills. This is going to impact that much more, and like someone else said, they're having to make the choice between whether to pay their rent or pay their utilities or have groceries. So everything can't keep on continuing to go up, especially when LG&E's shareholders are very well, they're making a lot of profit, and LG&E's making a lot of profit. So why is it that instead of taking some of the profit money that they have to repair infrastructure or build what they need, that they're going to take more from the ratepayers? The LIHEAP, my understanding is that the LIHEAP assistance program, the funding is being cut. Now that's probably a federal issue, but in regards to the funding being cut for LIHEAP, which assists so many low-income people, and now continuing to increase their rates, it's essentially socializing LG&E's cost for doing business, and that is not right. So, thank you. That's all I have to say. But
Thank you.
There we go. Come on down. We'll see what you need. It's you, not me.
The next on the list is Mary Allman.
How's that?
That's great. Thank you. And it's Marcy Allman, and I live on Wellingmore Avenue. And ironically, today I picked this up that has a quote from one of your colleagues, Dr. Matthews, who served on the Kentucky Public Service Commission. And she's now the chief financial officer of an electric co-op based in Owensboro. And this is what she had to say. I think about the people we serve. I know how hard they work for their money. Somebody out there is deciding between electricity and medicine. Every dollar I spend is a dollar that came from them. And my hope is that her value system is the same as yours in undergirding the work you do and the approach you take to these questions. As a taxpayer and a ratepayer, I am very happy to contribute and grateful to LG&E that I can contribute every month to help folks like Virginia spoke of, who struggle to just keep the basics covered and food on the table and shelter. I do object to contributing to profit over people in any situation. So I would ask you, please, to do everything you can to keep the rates as low as possible for the folks who are really impacted. Thank you.
The next one's a bit difficult to read. First name is Wallace. McMullen?
I think this is good. Okay. I'm Wallace McMullen, 4324 Dover Road. Is this good? Okay, and I'm also a member of the REAL group. I urge the Commission to deny this rate increase, which Louisville Gas and Electric has applied for. If approved, in the past 10 years, the residential rates will have gone up 40%, and the mandatory meter fees will have gone up 81%. Small commercial rates will have gone up 41%, and meter fees 86%. That's way too much. I'm advised that LG&E is asking to have a settlement conference before you have the rest of these public comment meetings. I would urge the Commission not to do that. Please listen to the voices of the public before you sit down for a settlement conference with the company. Going back to my script, I see no reason for the 25% increase in the mandatory basic service fee requested to continue natural gas service to homes. That's an additional $58 a year. Gas lines are underground and are not affected by severe storms in the weather, like Sam was speaking of. We have not had any serious earthquakes in LG&E's service territory. Inflation has not gone up that much. Please don't approve that large increase. This case is just the beginning of rate requests for LG&E KU. This proposal does not include recovering the cost of the new gas plant that was approved in 2023 at a cost of over $900 million. Nor does it include any of the costs of the proposed new fossil gas plants requested in the current CPCN case, which the Commission will rule on soon. That means we ratepayers are facing an 11.5% increase requested here in 2026, and then another proposed rate increase in 2028, and possibly another one in 2030. A recent study showed that electric rate prices are currently rising twice as fast as the rate of inflation. I urge you to try to put the brakes on that. So again, please deny this rate increase. LG&E customers have seen rate cases almost every 2 years. LG&E refuses to seriously work toward improving energy efficiency and other programs that will actually help people lower their bills. And I've gone through the frustrations of sitting through some of those meetings. LG&E is seeking policies which discourage investing in low-cost rooftop solar installations that would reduce the need to build expensive power plants in the future and perhaps address peak load problems in the hot summer days. Their actions, I think, are just greedy instead of serving the public as a public utility is supposed to do. I mean, some of the context here is Kentucky's minimum wage hasn't gone up in 15 years. Inflation is a continuing strain on everyone. Federal funding to help people facing utility disconnections, LIHEAP, is probably going to end, is expected to end. And the rate of return on equity for these companies is too darn high. That hits us with high bills. Per the experts I've been reading, such as RMI and Mark Ellis, the former chief of the corporate strategy for Sempra, a fair return on equity for these Kentucky companies would be at least 2% less than the 10.9% I believe they're currently seeking. At the current levels, these capital expenditures make the companies rich with the return on equity they get. They wind up with about a 17% profit from this schema. I urge the Commission to critically examine the level of the return on equity for LG&E and reduce it to that level of return on equity. I read that LG&EKU's parent company, PPL, continues to make record profits for its shareholders, $6.1 billion over the last 12 months. They're taking that money from us, their ratepayers. For these reasons I've enumerated and more, please deny this rate increase. Thank you for attention to my comments.
Thank you. The next one is Elisa Joe, but I can't read the last name.
I think that's me.
Okay. Thank you for your service with the microphone adjustments as well.
No problem. No problem. I just felt bad for people that had to reach up. My name is Elisa Owen, and I am the senior organizer for the Sierra Club's Beyond Coal campaign here in Kentucky. I've got a couple of things that I'd like to ask about, and I don't expect you guys to answer here, but I'm telling you some things that I'm confused about. And if I'm confused, it's likely that everyone is confused, okay? So if there would be a way for us to hear back from you about these things, this would be really, really helpful to me. The first thing has to do with the purpose of these meetings. It took me from downtown Louisville 1 hour and a half to get here. This is on the furthest edge of the county. I am not sure who decided that this place was the best place for a meeting at 5 p.m. But 5 p.m. is the rush hour on Dixie Highway, which is the main artery to get out of here for people who don't know the area. So, if, as I understand, these meetings are for the purpose of gathering people who care, I would suggest maybe next time in Louisville, we do this in the center of the city and not the far southwestern edge. This is the second time that we've had it here, and I definitely think that people in this area deserve the chance to comment. But I know that for people, I was downtown at 3 o'clock, and I didn't get here on time. So I just wanted you to know that it's hard to get out of here at 5. And I know that for you guys, it's better to do it earlier, but for people who work and also care about higher electricity bills, 5 is a difficult time. And I'm a case in point today. Then I'd love to be able to have more people at these meetings, because we are having a lot of these meetings, and we're having a lot more people that got here tonight. And I want people to have the opportunity to let you know how they're feeling about their utility. Second, about solar energy. I know that there are multiple regulations that go into the way that we do solar here in the state of Kentucky. I am also pretty sure that if we loosened up regulations on solar, that we would be able to reduce our peak, especially in the summer, substantially. And that is without battery storage, which makes it more expensive. LG&E KU has had the opportunity to build solar over and over and over again for its customers, and every single time it comes up with an excuse. And they always point us toward this black box, and that's me talking, this black box called lowest cost energy, right? I would love to have someone explain to me from the company how it is that over the lifespan of 40 years, a gas plant that you put in today is less expensive, and you pay for gas as that gas is volatile over time, how that plant is less expensive than a solar field that has no cost for fuel over that 40 years. I don't know if they're estimating the cost will stay the same over the next 40 years, which we all know is ridiculous. I don't know if they're doing what our attorneys have said they do, which is to pick their gas plant and then model it for us. I don't know what they're doing, but I personally do not believe that lowest cost energy is even a retrofitted gas plant. I want to see someone teach me that. If it's staff at the PSC, that would be great. If it's people from LG&E, that would be great. But I am confused how over and over again we're getting the lowest cost to be something that has fuel instead of something that doesn't. So I'm confused, and I know a fair amount about electricity regulation, and I still don't get it. So I would love it if we could all come sit in a room and LG&E could say, here's how we're doing it, right? Here's how we are deciding that fossil fuels, volatile in their cost, are always the lowest cost option, but of course only here in Kentucky, because everybody else is putting wind and solar online. So I don't get it, and I'd love it if the commission could help us get it. All right? Finally, the solar energy cap of 45 kilowatts. I don't know how that helps us as ratepayers. I don't think it does. Because what we do then is we say that on 1 meter, maybe that's a Walmart, maybe that's a Costco, but on that 1 meter, we've got 45 kilowatts. Even on a person on a farm that wants to put solar on their farm, they get capped at 45 kilowatts. Why is that? If that's a regulatory thing that the commission does, or is that something mandated by our legislature? Right? I'm not totally sure, but I think we should work together to bring costs down, and I know our legislature is interested in bringing costs down. And so I think we should work together to bring costs down and say, how is this cap, 45 kilowatts, keeping us from getting the amount of solar we need that's going to bring the peak down by incentivizing customers to help out, right? And then, after we get more people putting solar on their roofs, then what I would like is for us to compensate them fairly. The companies spent 2 years ago, spent a whole lot of time trying to make you believe that 7 cents, 7.5 cents, or whatever it is, 7.8 for the solar. Whatever it is, they spent a lot of time with you. I would like them not to spend any more time with you this time. They're wasting your time. 7.8, we figured out 2 years ago, was a good return for solar. It barely makes it worthwhile for people, but it's better than 3, which is what they're asking for. It annoys me that they are asking for it again. We just did it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Okay, I don't have anyone else who indicated they wanted to speak, but that does not mean that you can't speak. If you've changed your mind and would like to talk, just make your way to the microphone, and I'll give you some time to think about that before we move on. Just tell us your full name and address, please.
Good evening. So I'm Judy Schroeder. Did you say address also? 2711 West Main Street in Louisville, 40212. So I appreciate that you let me step forward. I don't know exactly what I want to say, except that how heartening it is to hear so many of the organizations represented in this audience speaking up for poor people, because as our representatives and the judges of proposals like this, the significant population of low, moderate income Kentuckians that we're talking about are facing another increase. This time, if I read your figures correctly, 25% over what we are currently paying, which is drowning people in my neighborhood. I appreciate that your role is to judge fairness and necessity. And what I've read about this proposal is that it is totally speculative. They can say that they're trying to protect us from other disasters and in giving themselves a capital base. But surprise here, I'm also a stockholder in LG&E, and I think that we're seeing enough profit. I don't want to make more money off of proposals like this that mean that they are providing essentially for big corporations like the data centers that are not even an industry that most Kentuckians have considered being planted in our backyards. And to think that the infrastructure that this, what did you call it, extremely high load factor is going to be built out for is as perhaps only speculative, while we are footing the bill that increases the hardship on all of my neighbors, is just unconscionable. So I appreciate your attention, and I appreciate this audience for speaking up from so many different perspectives. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we can't answer it, but you can ask it.
Right. Since I didn't take that full 7 minutes, I'm wondering, we're all concerned about this low turnout. If you want feedback, I'm wondering about the effectiveness of petitions. If those of us who are committed to this can get people's names who really care and could never get to a meeting like this, would this make a difference? And is there a number of people that we should target that would, in your minds, be a sufficient sample that would make a difference?
I can't answer that with an opinion. I can tell you that we look at all the written comments. They are part of the record, and we look at them, and we care about them. I guess that's about what I can say without commenting on the case. All right. We do appreciate you coming out. Again, I'll just remind you there are additional ways to give your comments. You can submit written comments to the Commission by either mailing or emailing them to psc.comment@ky.gov. Be sure to reference case number 2025-00113 for KU's rate case and case number 2025-00114 for LG&E's rate case, or you can put them both on there. And if there's nothing further, then we'll thank you once again, and this meeting is adjourned.